Well, hello you guys. This is Gretchen and I am here because you have asked me questions about how I mix my paint. This video is going to be about mixing paint to make fluid art, and I do have a commission coming up and I have to make some colors, so I thought this would be a great chance to show you what I do. A couple things I use specifically, I use American Floetrol. Sometimes I use a gloss medium, but I don't think I'm going to do that today. And then I also use distilled water, specifically distilled. I don't use tap water in my paints. As you can see, I have paints over here. This is a very minimal supply. I have to build up all my paints, and you can see my paint bottles, they're a bit messy. So I have to remake paint, and these have been sitting in these bottles for a long time. I don't think I've actually made paint for about 8 months. So I have to do a lot of paint. I use, oh, you can't see. I have my paint tubes over here. And so I'm gonna use tube paint. I use Amsterdam, Liquitex, Master's Touch. I use quite a few different brands, and I'm not really particular about which one. I do love Amsterdam paint, especially for Dutch pours, but I'm not snobby about it. I'll use anything, but I don't use craft paint. I don't use the little craft bottles of the cheap stuff. I do like the DecoArt type paints, and I have a lot of these down here, or folk art. I like those too. So what I'm going to do is give you sort of a play-by-play of what I do to make paint into fluid paint. And it's not super hard, but it takes time. Honestly, I know we are artists and we love to show you our fluid art, but honestly the paint mixing is super important. So if you have some friends who have been questioning, hey, how do I mix paint? Show them my video. I have learned from quite a few excellent artists out there, and I've taken some of their courses on how to make the paints. So I am just doing what I've been taught, so I would like to teach you. And honestly, in most of my fluid florals, I get asked almost all the time, how do you make your paint? This is also a new room. I have yet to paint in this room. I don't know why, I just haven't done it yet. I've been in the house for about 2 months, so I am going to restart painting. And as you can see, I know it looks funny, but I have orange tape all along my walls and my molding. And what we did is we put plastic on the walls. So I know it looks a little cheesy. My room is very utilitarian. It's not pretty. I don't have a pretty background. Everything is like just all supplies. So excuse the bit of a mess, but this is just how I protect my room. So let's get down to the table. I'm just gonna go change my shirt real quick because I don't want to get paint on me, and we'll get going. Okay, so the first thing I do is I get a bunch of Floetrol out of the bottle. And what I do is I just use a giant cup and I sift it. So if you are pouring Floetrol directly into the container that you're going to mix paint with, it will get chunks in it, and you don't want a bunch of gooey chunks, okay? So I already shook this. You're gonna like shake this for a while, shake it really good. I haven't used this in a long time. It's actually quite full. It's about up to here. So I shook it really good. Next thing I'm gonna do is pour it through the strainer. Now, when you're done with the strainer, you usually want to get all the gook out of it and rinse it pretty good so it doesn't dry. But I'm gonna keep adding Floetrol in here because I have a lot of paint I wanna mix, okay? So if you put it on there, it's gonna fall. You're gonna have to hold it. You're gonna have to hold this, you're gonna have to hold that. So you can see I have a lot of Floetrol in here because I plan on making a lot of paint today. So I just let it continue to drain through here. I don't have too many clumps in there. I want to keep showing both cameras. I haven't used two cameras in a while, so now I don't know where to look. So yeah, it looks good. It's not too clumpy. You can see a little bit of stuff in there. All right, so I have this wax paper here, and I just put that there so I don't mess up. I know it's weird, but I don't want to mess up my nice pea pads. These are just pea pads. Okay, so usually what I do is I will just let this kind of sit here. I might get the clumps to come out. See the clumps there? And then I just let it sit here for a bit. So this is my Floetrol. This is my distilled water. Always put the lid back on your Floetrol. You don't want it to dry. The commission piece that I'm going to do has a lot of purple and gray and silver and touches of teal. So this paint right here is a, it's like a gray with a tinge of violet in it already, and I only have like this much. So what I'm going to do is make some paint in here, because I don't want to make the paint in the one I've already created. So I'll make paint in this one and then I'll just pour it in. So I'm going to go with this natural gray from Master's Touch, and then I'm going to add some of the violet from Master's Touch into it, and you know, we'll just keep making paint until it's the right consistency. So this paint I've had for a while. It's pretty liquid. I don't even have a mound and a mound, so that's kind of what I'm going for. I like a thinner touch to my paint, so my consistencies are a little thinner than most people. I don't really like thick paint. I was taught by Molly's Artistry and Rinske Dauna, and I kind of like how they do their mixtures. So I sometimes will do 50-50 of the Floetrol and a gloss medium first. But my client likes more of a matte finish, but then I will also, you know, varnish at the end. So as you know, Floetrol will sort of make your colors look a little matte or dim, but when you varnish them, the life comes back into it. Now, if you put gloss medium into it, it adds a little gloss finish to that particular, ooh, I have Floetrol on my hands. It will add, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, the other thing is this Master's Touch paint does have some sheen to it. So that's also why I'm not using gloss medium, because there is a sheen to these. So it's already going to have a little, you know, something in there. So first I add just a touch of water on the bottom. I'm going to measure. What do we have? I usually use grams. So you put your thing on here. Apparently this is 17 grams. And then I'm gonna make it go to 0 again. Okay. So I do 1 part paint to 3 parts medium. Okay, so let's figure out how much paint I'm putting in here. All right, I have about 90 grams of paint, of gray, and 20 grams of violet. And I don't have gloves on. Let's remedy that. So I have about 110 of my colors. I'm gonna add about 110 of the Floetrol, so I'm going to make it up to 220. Oh, I went 228. I guess that's okay. Okay. Now I am going to mix. And that is a pretty gray violet. And if I add it to this color here, it will mix nicely. I might want to use more gray. Let's see. All right, let's put a little more gray in here. All right, put about 70 grams more in there. That violet just takes over, doesn't it? So one of the reasons I like to use Floetrol and water is because I want my paint to go farther. When you just do half water, half paint, I feel like you use a whole lot more paint, and paint is expensive. I know Floetrol seems expensive, but you get a whole gallon of it. But paint goes much farther when you add Floetrol. Wow, that's a pretty color. I don't know if you can see it well. Okay, so now it's like, it has a bit of a mound, but I only have 1 part Floetrol in here. So I'm gonna zero this out, and I'm going to add about 120 grams of, all right, I did 137. I guess that's okay. So this is 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. This is where we're at here. So I'm gonna get a new one of these bottles because this one's like a little crusty. So we're gonna have a new bottle of that. And that way we can see. All right, so with Master's Touch, sometimes you don't need as much medium because their paint is already, it's really creamy. It's not liquidy, but it's really creamy, so it blends a lot easier than the tube paint. So let me mix this up really good, and then I'll add my other paint. This is the gray. This is the purple gray. Okay. I'm going to be working on a 24 by 36 canvas, so I need a lot of paint. So I'm probably going to use the rest of this gray, make more gray. That's a really pretty color. I don't know if can you see that? And it might be a little dark. I think I might add white. I'm gonna lighten it up with some white. I know, I'm not really showing you how to mix. I'm showing you how I am making a color I need. Okay, this is the same consistency. I'm just gonna pour a little white in there. But you saw how I made this. So this was actually a little closer to 2.5 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. And the consistency was actually quite nice. It creates a mound, but then it, you know, kind of blends in. But I'm not done with it because then what I do is I add water. So I add water at the end. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so the gray is lightening up, and then I'm gonna add the rest of this purple. This is actually a nice mixture. But so it goes in, but then it creates a little bit of a little mound at the end of the stream. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water. Okay. Now, when you add the water on a container this big, you definitely want to mix it slowly, but mix it well. So you got to get that water all the way through here. Sometimes what I do is I will put some in here, mix it, put it back. I'll make another fresh color and then you guys can see what I do with just one color. Because I'm sorry, I know I'm mixing things and maybe I'm confusing you, I don't know. But you gotta make sure you mix really well. You don't want any little bits of individual color showing up like on the sides. You wanna scrape your sides. I use these big popsicle sticks or like medium ones, or I use these kind of, you know, mixers. I forgot where I got these. I love them though. But the popsicle sticks are nice because they scrape the sides real good. And then you can wipe them off and just keep using them. This still kind of has a mound on a mound. A little mound. But I don't want it to have a mound. I want it to just sink in. Okay, so what that means is I need to add a little bit of water in here. I could add some more Floetrol if I wanted to beef it up. So maybe we'll do that. Let's put some in here. Okay. I'm gonna put some Floetrol in here. Beef it up a bit. Meaning I'm just adding more so that I can have more quantity of this color paint. So I gotta mix that really well. I'm making a mess now. I don't like making a mess when I mix paint, but it always becomes a mess. So this is now a it's not violent. This is now a violet gray, which I'm cool with because it is a really pretty color. And I think she'll like this color. So this is a commission for a friend. She saw one of my videos online and wants me to create a larger piece that was similar to that for her living room. And I am always thankful for people who want my work in their house. I think that's awesome. All right, so this, again, I added more Floetrol. I need more water. I need more water. I want the consistency to be more fluid. I want it to be thin. The sort of work that I do is always using really thin paint. And sometimes, because I always have thin paint on hand, I will do, you know, like balloons or flip cups or, you know, whatever. I will do things that don't really work well with thin paint, and I'll just still make it work. Because I just don't want to make thicker paint. That's just not my thing. All right, this is really nice. This one I just put water in again, so I have to mix this up really good. So if you are mixing paint, don't forget, what I do is 1 part paint to 3 parts Floetrol. And the reason I use a scale, this is just a kitchen scale, is just so that I have it fairly accurate. Sometimes I eyeball it just because I usually have an idea of how much 1 part to 3 parts is. But for the sake of this video, I used my scale just so I'm a little more accurate. And then I use the distilled water for just creating that final fluidity that I want. Much better. All right, so let's see, can we get this to fit in here? Oh, it's almost, hey, look at that, nice. All right, so this one is done. This is a lot of paint, and I really hope I don't tip it over. So I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm going to put it over here. That one's good to go. So I have this little guy. I'm not going to bother cleaning him. I'm just gonna sort of swipe out some of the paint. Okay. Because I'm going to do a purple again, so this is okay just to reuse. All right, so the next I'm going to use is a metallic purple Artist Loft. I was also thinking of putting this neon violet with it, but I think we're just going to go with the metallic purple. So I'm going to just put a touch of the Floetrol on the bottom, because this will be harder to mix than these. So let me clean up my area a little bit. Before we start doing that, let's get some Floetrol in my cup. All right, we're going to start this at 0. I have Artist Loft Metallic Purple. So Artist Loft, I'm probably going to do 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. I guess I'm using all of it. I hope she likes this color. She said metallic purple. So we'll see how this looks. I do have some DecoArt metallic purples. All right, so we're at 62. I just have to remember about 60 grams, which means I would use about 120 grams of the Floetrol, and then I would use water. So for paints that are not the expensive paints, you're gonna wanna use less medium. So I would go with 1 part paint to 2 parts medium. Now, if I were using other mediums in here, I would use about probably 60% Floetrol, 40% gloss medium, or maybe like a 75-25. I guess it doesn't really matter if you're, depends on what you're using it for. You know, if you're doing, you know, a colander pour, or you're doing a flip cup, or, you know, some kind of special consistency that you want, you're gonna want something different. But the way I do it, it's not the same as everyone else. So this is a really pretty color, but look how thick it is. All right, so we're gonna, even with this in, it's fine, clear it out. I'm just gonna add 1 part at a time, because you want to be able to mix it really well. So I'm gonna add the first part, which is about 60, and then we'll add the second part after it's all mixed up. Let's put another 60 in. Oops, I put 84. I guess that's fine. It's not always perfect, but it's just over 2 parts of Floetrol with 1 part paint for the Artist Loft. So we have about 240 grams right here. Thing is, it's super thick. Look at it. It's like starts as a mound, goes to a mound. So I could add a little more Floetrol and then a bunch of water, which I think I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna need quite a bit of water in here because this type of tube paint is really thick when it goes in. The Master's Touch paint is creamy and it blends a little better. So now I'm going to use water. I don't measure my water. I put a few ounces in at a time and then I see what it looks like. And for those of you who have never watched my video, thank you for watching. I hope you're not bored. This is just part of what we do on a weekly, monthly, semi-monthly basis. When you're a fluid artist, you need fluid paint and you have to make it. There are companies out there that make paints and some of them are really nice colors and really good brands. I choose to just make my own. There are many other lovely brands out there, but this is just me. All right, so now it's going, when we say a mound on a mound, it means that when you, especially if you have a wider type of spatula or scooper or mixer, pick up some paint and you let it drip in. And it's making a little mound before it sinks. It like sinks in and then it makes a little mound, but then it kind of absorbs back into the paint. That's not too bad. That's a pretty good consistency, but it's not the same as my purple one. So what I want to do is add a touch more water just to get a little more fluidity in there. Let me get just a touch thinner. So I need to actually make violets, just pure gray. I need a whole lot more white. I already have some teal, but I am just going to be making paint all night. So I just wanted to show you these couple colors. I don't think you want to watch me make, 5 colors of paint. At least, I don't think you do. If I'm wrong, let me know. I'll make you another video because I'll be making a lot of paint. I'm going to need paint. Honestly, the last time I made paint was probably in the spring. So it's been at least 8 months. I've just been using up all my paints. That's still thick. Man, I'm gonna need a little more water. This is a pretty color. I like this Artist Loft Metallic Purple. It's actually quite nice. Then what you want to do is you want to do a drip test to see if they're the same. So if you want to make sure your paints are equal, you're going to want to do a drip test. And I don't know if mine are. I tried to create them equal, right? Okay. So you're going to take one color, make a little pile right there. You're going to get the other one, make a pile right there. Make sure they're sort of equal piles, otherwise it's not a fair race. They're gonna race. Now this is the white I used to add into the gray, and I know this is not the same as the others, but I think it's thicker. So I'm just gonna give you, it'll just show you an example of how if one is thicker than the others, it won't quite work. I need a little more because the gray had more. Okay, so then what you do, I'm gonna aim it at that camera, I guess, I don't know. What you do is you pick it up and you let it run. And you see how they run. Well, these two are running sort of equal. Let's do it this way now. Not too bad. So it looks like my gray, my gray and my white are equal, and my purple needs a little more water because it's a little thicker. It didn't run the same as my gray. So my purple needs a little more water. And so that's how I figure that out. Well, let's just add some water. So you guys, thank you so much for joining me. And if you have questions, please comment and let me know. I am sorry if I'm not using all the right terminology and giving you the sciencey part of this, but this is what I know, this is how I do it. And if you like my paintings, then now you know how to mix my paints the way I do it. So I did add some water. I think it's fine. This wasn't off by much. I think that this wouldn't be too bad to put all these colors together. So I am happy with my purple, and we're just gonna stick with this purple the way it is. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and you guys have a blessed day.